Hey everybody. So I know it's been a while since my last video and I apologize. I've been extremely busy with work and finally back in a place where I can start making videos again and hopefully keep it somewhat consistent. So to kick off this new round of videos, today I'm going to be doing a preview/review of a new sleeping pad that's coming out that actually has me fairly excited. So this sleeping pad is part of a partnership between the Ultralight community on Massdrop and Klymit, which has been a pad company that's been around for a while. Really hasn't done too much stunning in my opinion. You may remember in the past I reviewed their Inertia X-frame pad, and it was somewhat underwhelming despite its really lightweight. But I'm excited to say that this pad actually shows a lot more hope and may be a great pad for you, especially if you're on a budget. So let's jump into it. So if you've looked into the sleeping pad market at all lately, you've probably come across the Static V. It's a great budget pad from Klymit that, while it's really way too heavy to take into the backcountry, it does make a great car camping pad just due to its price point and the fact that it's pretty comfortable. But now with this new partnership, Klymit is actually making this pad with a much lighter material and a lightweight synthetic insulation that is making this a pretty great pad and definitely something you could take into the backcountry at a really great price point. So throughout this video, I'm going to be comparing the new Static V Ultralight to what I consider the holy grail of sleeping pads, which is a Thermarest X-Lite pad. So before I get too in-depth, you should know that Massdrop actually offers this pad in two versions, which is the uninsulated version and the insulated version. Now the uninsulated version is much lighter at around 12 ounces, which is comparable to an X-Lite pad, but with an R value of only 1.9, it's really only going to be good for summer camping, and there's so many other summer camping pads out there that are lighter than that, so it's kind of useless. So I'm going to recommend and review this insulated version, which has an R value that kind of sits between the X-Lite, which is I think a 3.1, and the X-Therm, which is a 5.7. So the Static V insulated ultralight has an R value of 4.4. And for most people, that's going to be enough to get you 4 seasons. I mean, you're not going to be deep winter camping with that, but it's warm enough that you can take that through most winter situations, making this pad a full-on 4-season pad, which is great for how much it weighs. And speaking of weight, let's get on into it. So just for reference, the X-Lite pad comes out to around 12 ounces. For some reason, after years of use, mine has come out to 12.6. Not exactly sure why. But the Klymit Insulated Static V Ultralight, which is a mouthful, comes out to 16.9 ounces on my scale, and 17.9 with the stuff sack included. So while this pad is about 4.3 ounces heavier than the X-Lite, it's still well within the realm of lightweight backpacking and even ultralight, and definitely something I would take out into the backcountry with me. Now, the real kicker on this pad is the price point, which is pretty incredible. And so, just for comparison, the X-Lite pad in general on average runs around $160, and you can definitely find it cheaper. Cheapest I've seen is probably around $120, but in any case, not really a cheap pad. Now, the Klymit Insulated Static V Ultralight comes out to $60 on Massdrop, which is pretty crazy for a pad that is comparable, not quite on the same level as the X-Lite, but not too bad. Now at the end of a long day hiking, no one likes to spend too much time blowing up their sleeping pad, so I compared the effort it takes to blow up both of these pads. For the X-Lite, it takes me around 14 breaths, and for the Klymit, it takes me approximately 8. So not quite, but it's almost half the time or half the energy to blow up the Klymit pad. But I will say it's actually much harder to blow up the Klymit pad, and it takes a lot more force from my lungs to put the air into the pad. And I think that's due to the somewhat strange baffle design, the V design, and the fact that the chambers aren't completely linked on the edges like they are on the X-Lite. Now, comparing the comfort on these two pads, I will say that I actually do prefer the X-Lite still. It's much more adjustable in my opinion. So you can see here I'm not really bottoming out when I sit on it, and if I want it really firm I add some air in. If I want to soften it up a bit I can actually take it air out and still not bottom out on the ground. Now with the Klymit I've found that I really have to have it fully inflated as much as I can so that I don't bottom out. You can see here when I sit on it I hit the ground, but as soon as I disperse my weight I'm back up on the pad. And so it is definitely a comfortable pad, but I don't think it has quite the adjustability and just not quite the comfort of the X-Lite. Now I will say, if you're a heavier person or a larger person than I am, there is a chance that you may bottom out on this pad on the hot spots, like around your shoulders and your hips, because although it is almost the same thickness as the X-Lite, which is around 2.5 inches thick, it doesn't quite have the firmness, so you may find that you touch the ground unless it's fully inflated. So just keep that in mind. So I've got to say, noise on a pad and crinkliness has never really been an issue for me, but I know there are people out there that really don't like to have a crinkly pad when they're sleeping. So this next clip will show you the difference between the noise on the pads, and I think you'll see that the Klymit is actually much quieter and not quite as abrasive as the X-Lite is. So before the video's over, I do want to say that this is not the easiest pad to deflate, and I know this can be a big factor, especially for distance hikers, thru hikers, people that want to get up and get moving fast in the morning. This pad does take a bit of effort to deflate, and I think once again it's due to that V baffle design and the kind of limited continuity between the baffles. It takes just a little more effort, a little more time to roll it up and get that last bit of air out of it before you can actually pack it up. Well, I've got a few more detailed pictures on the pad here to go through, but that about wraps it up. And I mean, at this price point, it's really hard to beat this pad. It's a great jack of all trades pad. Obviously, it's not going to be the best in any category, but overall, it's a really great pad. And at a $60 price point, I'm not sure there's another pad out there that can beat this. Now, obviously, it's not going to be an upgrade from an X-Lite, but if you're looking for a great pad to get out into the backcountry with, and for most people to get out in 4 seasons because of the high R value, this is a great pad to go with. Well, thanks for watching. That about sums it up. And if you are considering buying the pad, I'd appreciate it if you click down through my link in the video description or on my website, and that'll actually give a little kickback to me and keep stuff like this coming. And as always, you can find me on Patreon where you can support more content like this. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Glad to be back.